Hello there, true believers. I'm Marvel King, and you're watching Behind the Series. Welcome to Behind the Series, a podcast in which we talk about the making of every show I have and will bring on the channel, season by season. In this first episode, we will talk about the first true project I brought to this channel, a still ongoing show that we all love very much. Of course, I'm talking about The Amazing Spider-Man, the series. Specifically, in this video, we'll delve deep into what led me to make this series a reality, examining together what makes the first season of this show so special to me, and overall everything that made it the success I'm proud of. But, before going forward, please remember to subscribe and to activate all the notifications in order not to miss anything I'll upload, posts included. Now, without further ado, let's watch The Amazing Spider-Man Season 1. I come from Italy, specifically the southern part. Spider-Man has always been part of my life, from childhood up until now, at 24. Spider-Man to me represents the ideal character, not a perfect and unfailing god, but an imperfect hero that, despite his problems, always chooses to do good. Spider-Man is the personification of everything that makes superheroes great. The first time I ever thought about a Spider-Man project in the format of a TV show was when I discovered Gavin J. Konop's series. The concept of the videos was really very simple, but very awesome, which was taking Spider-Man's long and beautiful comic story, organize and divide it into narrative arcs, and span them over the course of several seasons, taking the show Smallville as the inspiration from the realization of the opening intros. I thoroughly enjoyed Gavin's take on Spider-Man. Overall, I think that his videos and posts about his series were what first made me have a more comic-accurate view of the character. Not as depicted most of the times by the likes of Sam Raimi, that sort of Clark Kent, dorky persona, but as a flawed, angry and complicated young man who's been thrown in a world much bigger than himself. An orphan boy forced to become a man. What Gavin did was essentially taking the 10 seasons of Smallville and turn them into a Spider-Man show, adapting some of my personal favorite stories. In a way, while I've grown up with Spider-Man, Gavin was the first person who made me truly know the character on a deeper level. Since I have memory, I've always had a passion for telling stories. I started my journey on YouTube when I was very little, creating for the first time my nickname, Marvel King. Back then I used to make gameplay videos with very poor results. The concept at its root was, again, simple. I wanted to tell stories in a unique way, and I identified YouTube as the perfect tool to do just that. Unfortunately, that spark of creativity extinguished soon. I didn't simply want to bring other people's stories. I wanted to tell my own. Years passed and COVID happened. It was the year 2020, my final year of high school, and my sister had to write a tale of her invention for a school exam. She went for the detective genre. The results were so good that even today we reread it with much appreciation. After reading it for the first time, an idea started to take shape in my mind. And now I knew how I could tell my own stories with all the freedom I yearned for. Writing. Since then I started working on my personal novel, but I still had school and I couldn't dedicate myself fully into it. Furthermore, I also needed to improve my style, In some ways, you could say that I couldn't write, but I needed to write. That's when I discovered Wattpad, an app used by people who love reading and writing. This was an important milestone toward the creation of my Spider-Man show. By the time I started using Wattpad, I also started to watch the first season of the show Riverdale. You know, that show with like one good season and the rest, yeah. My passion for writing, my love for Spider-Man, and my genuine liking for that first season, only that first season, led me to create my very first fanfiction on the app, Spider-Man x Riverdale. But if there's one thing to know about me is that while many do normal, I always do extra. My friends know that. There were several incredibly talented writers on the app that did not limit themselves to the use of words, but that also implemented to their stories personalized GIFs and videos. I was fascinated by that, and I knew that if I wanted my now called fanfic show to stand out from the other Riverdale fanfictions, I needed to do something new. Something that was never done before, or at least very scarcely done before. And that's when Gavin's videos came back to the picture. It was then that I created this new channel, and just like that, Marvel King was reborn. I started my journey into the editing world, and made the first version of the Spider-Man x Riverdale intro, with GIFs.
How to save a life? Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere alone in a bitterness, and I would have stayed up with you all night. And I know how to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere alone in the bitterness, and I would have stayed up with you all night.
Yeah, it was really awful. But to me, that was a huge step. I had never edited anything, and I had no idea where to start or what to do. So I found a GIF to video converter, an editing app, and I got to work. Back then I used to do everything on the phone, so I had to adapt a lot. In time, the opening for that fanfic show improved more and more as I found new ways, new apps, and new techniques. But I did not stop there. On Wattpad, there were tons of wonderful writers, many of which I still hold dear today, to whose projects I offered to make a dedicated Smallville-style intro. All of this helped me build friendships and experience as an editor, until, finally, the definitive version of that intro came out.
How to save a life? Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere alone in a bitterness, and I would have stayed up with you all night. And I know how to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere alone in the bitterness, and I would have stayed up with you all night.
That was the second milestone on my path as a content creator, as now I was conscious that I could not only bring the substance of my writing, but also the flair of quality editing into my project. So really the best of two worlds, an overkill combo. In my short career on Wattpad, I produced many other Marvel projects, like openings, trailers. Overall, Wattpad represents an important step in the direction I took here on YouTube. Then, the idea came. As my journey on Wattpad was continuing, I decided to try something for fun, which was making a new intro for a new Spider-Man show. No crossovers, no fanfictions, just a Spider-Man show based on the original comics written by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. It was then that the opening of the first season came to be.
Sometimes I wish I could save you, and there's so many things that I want you to know. I won't give up till it's over. If it takes you forever, I want you to know that if you fall, stumble down, I'll pick you up off the ground. Tell me you won't give up, 'cause I'll be waiting if you fall. You know, I'll be there for you.
Looking back at it now, it was rough, it had poor quality, but to me, it represented a culmination of everything I had done in those 3 years. Initially, I was indecisive whether or not to upload it yet, so I just kept it on my iPad. Yeah, in the meantime, I got an iPad and things with editing got very, very easy. In any case, I didn't know if it was a good decision to upload it, as it was initially supposed to be the opening of a new fanfic show I planned to bring to my Wattpad profile. The problem was that I still had many fanfiction to write, to finish. I didn't want to start another one without having at least finished one. But after some time of thinking and after a very positive conversation with a friend of mine, that I still hold dear today, I decided to upload the video. In the next few days, I monitored the opening and I noticed something. The views were exploding. Hundreds of people a day clicked and watched my video. With all those views came the first comments. And when I reached my first thousands of views, not only I understood that I had made something that far exceeded my expectations, but I also realized that in my hands there was something bigger that I could have ever imagined. So that's when I decided to turn this concept show into a web series on YouTube. And thus, a new journey on my path as a creator started. This is the story of how Marvel King Studios came to be. And it's also the reason why the first season of The Amazing Spider-Man holds such a dear place in my heart. Now that I told you what led to the making of the first season, it's time I tell you about the first season and the whole premise of the show. Since the very start of my new journey here on YouTube, I knew that I wanted to do things my way. Gavin J. Connop's videos inspired me so much back in the day, but I knew I needed to adopt a different approach. First off, I needed the music. I couldn't just use the same song Gavin picked for his series. I wanted to create something new, something more serious, something that had a backbone. So I knew that even if Gavin inspired me so much, I needed to go my way and create my own thing. I basically performed a Miles Morales on this thing. Then, one day, after a long search, I found the perfect song for what I was looking for. Save You by Simple Plan. It had this sort of melancholic start, but it also had this explosive energy. It was perfect. All the words of the song matched perfectly with the type of character that I wanted Peter to be in this series. So now I had the song. But how could I make my opening truly stand out? Much with the song, I couldn't simply copy Gavin's style. To be honest, many other YouTubers that felt inspired by Gavin copied his style and made it a bit simpler. To me, that wasn't the way to go. I needed something different. Also because I had a different goal in mind than the one Gavin did. He wanted to modernize the series, to adapt it to today's times, bring Spider-Man into the current world. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to bring the watchers to the times those stories were written. I wanted the very opening to show this very nostalgic feel, even in a subtle way. So I came up with the idea to make it look as if, you as the watcher were literally ripping the pages of a comic book. And that's when I came up with the ripped pages transitions I always use in my videos. Still, to me, that wasn't enough. I needed something original. Something that no one had seen before in a fan-made opening. That's when I came up with the rounded title. That's because I wanted to convey the feel of the original comics. Now I had the title, the song, the feel. The video was starting to take this iconic shape, the one it has even now. What font would I have used? Many just resorted to use, this sort of cinematic font, like resembling a movie. Like, it gave character, but that also was not very personal, not very original. And again, I wanted something different. And in that moment, I remembered of the best Spider-Man cartoon ever made. I will die on this hill. The best Spider-Man cartoon ever made, which I grew up watching as a kid, was Spider-Man the Animated Series. That's right, the one made in the 90s. I will die on this hill. That show reworked and reinterpreted the original comic book stories of the World Crawler in the ways we know them today. Just to give you an example, the trope of the symbiote being evil and corrupting Peter over time was created for the first time by this show. Many of the things that we now associate with Peter Parker have been created by that show. And it's amazing if you think about it. But it was no coincidence that it was the 90s show, the one I thought about. Because the main sources of inspiration for the Amazing Spider-Man, the series, have always been the comics and the 90s show. So now I had the style, the song, and the format. Now I needed the characters. Even here, of course, I had to take a different route. As most fan-made Spider-Man shows here on YouTube include characters like Harry Osborn, Gwen Stacy, and Mary Jane Watson immediately, like in the very first season. Gavin himself added Harry and Gwen since the start of his series. Though, having read the original comics, I came to a conclusion not many people realized about Peter Parker. Like an element of his personality that really shapes his way of thinking, of acting. He's a loner. Like, his very first years as a teenager have been filled with a deep solitude, motivated by the fact that he was a bookworm and that he was bullied by everyone in Midtown High. So I wanted to really show his loneliness, to make it shine, over the course of the first 3 seasons of the show. In fact, the plan was to dedicate only 3 seasons to the high school part of Peter Parker's journey. Not even Lee and Ditko made him stay in high school for a long time. Peter was supposed to grow up back in the day.